you have lived in the state of Georgia and claimed a homestead exemption for 30 years, not if you move here from New York or California. I don't want to turn on an electromagnet for people to move to Georgia. When you turn 65 years old, your property taxes for schools should go away. It is not the job of seniors to educate my children. The second thing, and this gets to a core of something I think is really significant. Georgia, and specifically the Atlanta metro region, leads the nation, not the Southeast, but the nation, in single-family homes that are owned by hedge funds and private equity groups. A large percentage of these private equity groups are backed by foreign money, foreign pension funds, and foreign sovereign wealth funds. They're gobbling up single-family housing stock at a rate never before seen in America. They are turning that single-family housing stock into rental housing. It is stealing the American dream right before our eyes. We are going to ban hedge funds and private equity groups from using foreign money to buy American homes. American homes should be for American families, for young men and women like these guys. We're going to take the average age of the first-time home buyer from 40 years old to under 30 years old. If we can do that, more young men and women like them will begin to participate in the upside of free market capitalism. If you participate in the upside of free market capitalism, you will have faith in free market capitalism and liberty, which is the core foundational value of the Declaration. And you will not fall prey to Pied Pipers like Zoran Mamdani or Bernie Sanders, who play a tune and say, well, what these guys are selling you isn't working, so let me sell you something else. What happened in New York can happen in Georgia, and it will happen in Georgia if the price of first-time ownership continues to rise. We have an emergency in this state and in this country. We need to reverse the trend. Approximately 30% of the cost of a home is in regulation. Now here's a bill I haven't passed out of the State House yet. We passed out of the Senate twice. I have passed a bill called the Red Tape Rollback Act. It will be the largest deregulation bill in the history of the state of Georgia. It puts significant guardrails and boundaries around the administrative state. President Trump talks about the swamp, right? The core of the swamp is the lifetime bureaucrats. And we don't have a swamp problem at the scale of D.C., but government grows at every level. And unless you constrain the growth of government, it will continue to grow. So what that bill will do, it will constrain government and reduce the ability for the bureaucrats to begin to continue to layer upon layer upon layer the regulations that have resulted in 30% of the cost of a home being in the regulatory mechanism. That's what we're going to do when I'm Lieutenant Governor. Some people ask me a really important question. What does the Lieutenant Governor do? Here's what he does. He shakes the governor's hand to see if it's still warm. If it's not, he or she will become the governor. Other than that, and that's a joke, by the way, for those who think that I'm serious, the president of the Georgia State Senate, the body in the chamber in which I've served for the last 7 legislative sessions, is the lieutenant governor. They have the ability to green light and red light legislation. Every single bill that I just told you about, except the vaccine passport bill, passed under Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Now, the conventional wisdom when you're doing what I'm doing and you're running for higher office is you don't talk about other elected officials. But I've got no problem telling you that I'm supporting Burt Jones for governor, because I've seen the way that he has governed over the Georgia State Senate in the bold legislation that we have passed. I stood in a foxhole with Burt Jones back after the 2020 election when he, myself, and 2 other people stood up and called for a special session of the Georgia General Assembly to investigate what happened in the 2020 election and make changes to election law moving forward. There's over 200 members of the Georgia General Assembly, and 4 of them called for a special session. I was one of them. If you want to see how I will govern as Lieutenant Governor, you can look the way that Bert has governed. We have moved some of the boldest, most conservative pieces of legislation through the Senate, and we don't need to stop now. So I would like to invite you on a journey. The journey is to save America. We save America by saving Georgia. We save Georgia by saving the American dream. I am jealous and a little offended that Florida has this nickname as the free state of Florida. Does that bother y'all? They say to begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey talked about that. My end in mind, after being your lieutenant governor for 8 years, they're going to be talking about Georgia as the free state of Georgia. That's how we define success. So with that, I think I've got maybe a couple minutes for questions. Is that fair? Yeah. I would love to let you guys drive a conversation. Ask me anything. Anything is on the table. And then we'll wrap up, and I'll wish y'all a Merry Christmas and head back to Forsyth County. By the way, I live in Forsyth County, Georgia. Small business owner, employ about 80 people at a software development company. My wife and I have 4 kids. We're adventurous. They're 13 and under. Between the ages of 13 and 7 years old, 3 girls and a boy. That's my background. I never like to lead with my background because I think it's really more important the way that I view the world and what I want to do, but I did want to at least give you a little bit of who I am. Sir?
You mentioned home builders in the Atlanta area. Can you name some of the big builders that these hedge funds?
Well, the builders aren't really the issue. It's the private equity groups like Blackstone that are coming into Atlanta, and they're buying up single-family housing stock. And so here's the challenge. I don't know how old these young men are, but you're a 27-year-old young man. You go place an offer on a home, and now you're competing with Blackstone. And Blackstone's really not that concerned if they overspend $5,000 or $10,000. They're putting this into a portfolio. But for these guys, that's a big difference. It may push them out of the affordability range. So it's a piece. It's not the only piece, but it is a piece as to what has driven up home prices in our state because it's pushed the demand up.
Right, I understand that. So how would a bill look? Like we've got D.R. Horton.
Yes, sir.
Smith Douglas with the big subdivisions that we call them velocity subdivisions. They build them and they get out. What could the state do to be sure that these homes are being bought by individuals?
Yeah, did y'all hear the answer or the question? What can the state do to ensure that the homes are being bought by individuals? What I want to do is to pass a law in the state of Georgia. It would be the first of its kind in the country. Other states have started playing with this idea, but nobody's passed a piece of legislation that will ban hedge funds from using foreign money to purchase single-family homes in Georgia, full stop. So we will require certification at the purchase that is not a hedge fund that is making the purchase of the property. By the way, I think it's important to add this. We also need to stop foreign entities from buying farmland in the state of Georgia. We banned it within a certain radius of military bases, but we need a complete and total ban on China purchasing our food supply, which is happening at scale. We need to recognize the geopolitical threat that we're under and push back in all ways. This is the core of the America First agenda. And we have taken some steps in this direction, but we need to always be vigilant and continue to finish the drill. Thank you for the question. Sir.
For you. You mentioned that we should prohibit the hedge funds from using foreign money to purchase residential purchase property in Georgia. But money is fungible, isn't it? I mean,
Sure.
You can't separate the dollars from Europe and the dollars from U.S. investors because within the hedge funds they can move the money however they want. So,
well, not really. So did y'all hear the question? So money is absolutely fungible. If you look at the way that these funds raise money, they're doing raises within funds. They know who all their equity holders are. They know what their cap table looks like. They know what equity positions they have if they're in a GP, LP structure, general partner, limited partner. So they have the ability to see that. We can ask them to certify that. Under the investigatory powers of the state, we have the ability to look into any if we believe that they're not certified accurately. We know who the main players are. We know them by name. The good thing about real estate is it's all public. So we know who the deed holders are, we know who the lien holders are, we know what the title looks like. So we do have the ability to do that. We'll need to perfect that process as we go through the legislative process, but I do believe it's something that we can do. And I'm going to transition, if I can, off of that. I'm wearing the tie today. I don't normally wear the tie, but I do want to tell you all, I started my day this morning in the Georgia Supreme Court. I wrote a piece of legislation last year to form a special committee in the Senate called the Senate Special Committee on Investigations. The tie in my brain was between the investigations piece, if you're wondering how I got here. To investigate District Attorney Fani Willis and her activities in the state of Georgia. We conferred powers on the General Assembly that has only been used a couple of times over the last 100 years, and that is the power to subpoena witnesses. It was very important to confer this power on the General Assembly. We passed the bill. The DA has been avoiding and refusing to honor the subpoena for a year and a half. We won a case in the trial court. The judge in that case completely deconstructed Willis's arguments, ruled in our favor on every charge. She used her right to appeal that to the Supreme Court, and this morning the Georgia State Supreme Court heard that case. However, her attorney, former Governor Roy Barnes, if you remember Governor Barnes, announced to the court this morning that DA Willis will testify before the Senate Special Committee on Investigations next Wednesday. So that will happen at 10 o'clock in the morning in the Georgia State Capitol. If you're interested in coming, it is open to the public. It will be available and televised as well. But that's something I've been working on for a year and a half because I believed it was essential to get to the bottom of what Willis was doing.
Yes.
The case is, she has now been disqualified for misconduct. The case has been thrown out. But we need to ensure it never happens again in the state of Georgia.
Yes.
And so we're going to continue to fight to get to the bottom of that. So I made a little bit of a leap.
That's okay.
Investigations was the leap in my brain. I hope that's okay. Sir.
I want to backtrack just a step there. Although this is the flooring capital of the world, it's also one of the biggest agricultural areas in the state of Georgia. Our farmers are under tremendous pressure, particularly our cattle farmers, for vertical integration. Would you carry some of the same ideas you've outlined in housing and apply it to our farmland and help our farmers?
Yeah, I'm really concerned. I'll give you all a great example. Y'all heard the question? The family farm is getting pinched. I spent my summers on my family farm. My grandfather had a farm where he had cattle and grew alfalfa and corn in the Midwest. And the best values in life are you learn them on the family farm. The family farm is disappearing in America due to the vertical integration that he's talking about. But the other thing that's happening with that is China is purchasing a lot of that vertical integration. They now own the largest pork producer in the world, Smithfield. It's owned by China.
Wow.
That is a national security threat. Food security is national security. So I don't have the answer kind of as clearly in my head, but 100% I believe that we should look into that. President Trump stepped up yesterday with significant relief for farmers. That was a great step to bridge that gap. But our farmers in South Georgia especially are still reeling from the hurricane. And a lot of those payments to get them the relief that they needed were delayed. So that's something else that we need to have a keen eye on. Agriculture, number one industry in the state, very important, not just in South Georgia, but as you pointed out, all over the state. I'm keenly aware and have my eye on essentially all of these, what I believe are existential threats from foreign countries that threaten to strategically run a 50-year game plan to end America's era of dominance. That's what they're trying to do. We need to stop them. Thank you for your question.
Hey, do you think Georgia will ever end state vaccine mandates?
Do I think Georgia will ever end state vaccine for schools?
Yes.
I do not know. I'm a big believer in vaccine choice. I was happy last week when they took hepatitis B off of the vaccine list. We did not vaccine our children for hepatitis B because we know that we don't have hepatitis B. We know for a fact mom doesn't have it. We're not like no vaccine people at all, our kids, but we did spread our vaccines out. And for that, we were kicked out of our pediatric practice. There are perverse incentives among the insurance companies where the pediatric practices, our are disincentivized and lose some funding if they don't have a certain percentage of people on the vaccine schedule. So we were bad for business and they kicked us to the curb. I do not know the answer to that question, but I think there's a very good conversation happening in America right now around medical freedom, around the health of our country, and what it looks like. And I'm pretty okay with the fact that my Secretary of Health and Human Services at 71 years old just did 20 pull-ups. So, did y'all see this, by the way?
Yeah.
So, Kennedy yesterday at the airport, and like I'm a reasonably fit guy, I don't know, do 12. I'm 47 years old. This guy pops off 20 pull-ups. Other than this veteran right here, I don't think anybody in the room can do 20 pull-ups. So, it's intriguing to me. Any other questions, y'all? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, now backtracking a little bit, and this is probably wishful thinking, but why can't, all the foreign countries that has came over here and purchased the land from Americans, why can't they be taxed so heavily where it pinches them, where they either sell back to the United States at whatever amount and get the heck out of Dodge? I mean, why can't this be taken care of?
You can. The mechanism you would use to do that is the homestead exemption, because they can't claim homestead exemption on their property. So if you protect homesteaded property, which is what I want to do, the local municipalities are going to have to capture revenue elsewhere, and they will capture and perhaps capture it from those that are owned by some of the corporations. So there's a give and take there, right? So you don't want to tax all commercial property owners to death. Think about office buildings and the types of things like this building right here that you want to have in your community. There are some things that can be done. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders actually used the power of the state to reclaim some of that farmland in her state that was owned by China. And Georgia can take a look at doing something similar if we choose to do so. The key, though, you've got to have people in the highest offices in the state that fight. They have to be willing to fight, because when you are down at the Capitol, all of the incentives are to go along to get along. And we all sound the same when we're standing right here. But the voting records aren't the same. And what really matters isn't what I tell you when I'm standing here. It's whether I push the red or the green button. And it's the pieces of legislation I choose to champion. So we can fight to save the country, but it doesn't happen in campaign stops. It happens when you're actually doing the work.
So, another question. Like, they can come over here and buy our farmland, but what about Americans purchasing in their country? What is the...
It's a communist country, what do you think?
Well, yeah, so see, this is why it should be... Anyway, that's...
America first. That's the answer to all of it. America first. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, so if you became lieutenant governor, would you do just that and try to reverse this Chinese land buying that's gone on in Georgia?
Yes.
Y'all heard him. You heard him.
Roll the tape. Roll the tape. I will tell you, my friend Brandon Beach was the original author of that bill. I believe I was the second or third signer on that bill. Fought to get that across the finish line. We had somebody else that ended up carrying that bill, but that's something that we worked very carefully to make sure we got ushered through the state Senate.
Why would someone be against that?
She asked, why would someone be against that? We listed all of our foreign adversaries. It's not just China. It's Iran. It's Venezuela. It's countries that we know that hate America, where they chant death to America in the streets.
Well, why would
And the reason that some people are against that is they're just not America first. They are either unwilling to admit what our foreign adversaries would do to us, or if they are willing to admit it, I don't know why they would not support a piece of legislation like that. You would need to ask them the answer to that question. All right. So Ellie has signs at the door. I would love you all to grab a sign, grab one of my brochures. My name is Greg Dolezal. Let's save America. Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Okay, and I'm going to do one other thing. If Miss Jackie Harling will come up here, she's asked to share a few things about the special election. She is actually our acting chairman of the district right now. Our past chairman, Jim Tooley, he is actually running for Congress. That's what's going on there. So Jackie wanted to share a few things.
Hi, everybody.
As he said, my name is Jackie Harling, and I'm the acting 14th District GOP Chairman. And I just want to talk for a minute, not long at all, about the elephant in the room. You may or may not have heard Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned. And because of that, we're going to have a special election. That date has been determined by our governor to be March 17th. So the problem, we have a lot of problems with this. This could be very, very problematic for Georgians in the 14th District. Georgians in the entire state and indeed our country. We have a very small majority in the House of Representatives. Now we have one less. So our majority is Thomas Massey. And I love Thomas Massey. But one vote is not a majority. That is dangerous. Very, very dangerous for us. Another thing that's dangerous for us is the type of special election this is going to be. This is going to be what many refer to as a jungle primary, which means all the Republicans that choose to run can run on the same ballot as all the Democrats that choose to run and all the independents. We might have 30 people on this ballot. I want you to think about that for just a moment. If the Democrats consolidate and unify behind one candidate, and we have 30 Republicans that are called to run for Congress, what do you think will happen? A Democrat there is a good chance, a very real chance, that a Democrat will be your next congresswoman or congressman. That is unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable to me. Marjorie Taylor Greene represented us accurately. She spoke on our behalf. She was a mama bear that was not perfect, and neither is anybody in this room. But she left big shoes to fill. And it's my job as the district chairman to let everybody know this dangerous, dangerous situation we're in. So we're going to be asking all of you, every one of you, to get out the vote. You're all going to become Trump force captains. You're going to become poll watching captains. You're going to be in charge of not letting this district slip through our fingers. Because I'm going to be awfully mad if a Democrat is my congressman. Okay? So, March 17th, typically, voter turnout is very low in special elections. Very low. That's a dangerous combination between that fact, that historical data fact, and the fact that we might have endless Republican candidates and one Democratic candidate. Something has to give. If we split the vote that much, we're going to end up with a Democrat congressman. So I need you guys to pray for discernment and start calling and texting people. We have a date now. It's called March 17th. That's the D-Day for us, okay? That's going to determine whether we love our future and we have hope in our future of this district or not. So that is all I'm going to say. But I love you guys and hope you work with me to make this a good situation for us and not something we have to cry about for the next few years, okay? Thank y'all. Thank you.
Okay, so one last thing, and it is time for our raffle drawing. Let me grab the bucket here. And Senator Dosel, you're our special guest. Would you like the honor of drawing the
Yes.
ticket? Okay.
Hey,
We're going to stir these up.
wait a minute.
Good. He's not seeing it.
Video it. Video it.
Okay. All right.
Y'all ready? What's this for?
Gun raffle.
What kind of guns?
AR-15.
All right, here we go.
Some other accessories.
And accessories. I'm going to need help on this handwriting. It's almost as bad as mine. Is it Roger Hicks? Is that
That's what
right?
it looks like. Yep. You don't have to be here.
We got a phone number on here, so we can.
We'll reach out to him. Roger Hicks, that's one. So, congrats to him. Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for, if you bought raffle tickets over the last month. Y'all have a Merry Christmas.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go get some of my yard signs.
Great.